Hey friends, this is Mrs. Brandolind, and we're here today to talk about food chains. You've heard me say before that there is a poem about everything, and I sure found one about food chains for you. So here we go. Who eats what? Who eats who? Who eats me? Who eats you? Food chains show what things eat. What eats plants? Who eat meats? Starts with sun, producers grow. They make food, don't you know? Consumers come for energy. Eat those plants. Quite tasty. Maybe food chains make you squirm when things eat things like birds eat worms. A shark seen eating other fish that eat seaweed as their dish. A fox will hunt, nothing new. Eats a mouse and rabbits too. But who eats fox? A food chain shows a wolf, a bear, how nature goes. Food chains say what eats who eats me, and what eats you. So I thought that was a fun poem, kind of introducing food chains. I want to talk about a couple of terms before we get into our story today that also talks about food chains. So here's a great explanation and definition of food chains. And you may already have some prior knowledge of this, so I won't take too long on it. I don't want to waste your time with things you may already know. So just bear with me for a moment. So you do know that every living thing needs energy in order to survive and grow. And all living things get their energy from the foods that they eat. But what we eat, that's where it gets a little bit different. So plants, need sunlight and water and the nutrients in the soil to get their energy. And then the food chain shows how other living things get food and how basically energy is passed along from creature to creature. It's kind of like hot potato, how you just pass that energy along. So here are a couple of visual examples that I want you to look at. So we start over on the left and you have the acorns, and those are the producers. Those grow, they make energy all on their own, and they fall on the ground. And then along comes a little mouse, and the mouse gets his nourishment and his energy from eating those acorns. And he moves along, and then along comes a snake, and the snake gets his energy by eating that mouse. They're passing their energy along. And then here comes the hawk, and the hawk eats his snake, or eats the snake right there. And so that's not the end of that food chain. The hawk also has a predator that could use him and his energy and take it along. But that's what we're going to look at for today with that. But we also have another one below. You see the grass, and the rabbit eats the grass, gains energy from that. And then the fox comes along and eats the rabbit. So you see underneath an opportunity for you to think about a food chain and draw one, but we'll come back to that later. So here are some really good terms. You saw these two words in the poem that I read, the first being producers. Producers make their own food inside their body using the sun. So those are the plants and the trees and the grasses, anything that just kind of does it on their own. They make their own food using the sun. And then you have consumers, and that's where we fall under. We are consumers. We need to get our food by eating other animals or plants. So here are three types of consumers in the food chain. So you may not know these words, maybe you do, and it's just a refresher. That's okay too. An herbivore, an herbivore is any animal that eats only plants. So you see a grasshopper and a deer and a bunny. Those only eat plants. You won't find them eating any kind of meat. Okay. Then you see the carnivore, and the carnivores listed here are lions and sharks and an eagle. They only eat meat. No plants for them. They just need meat, please. And then down here you find a little bit of a mix, the omnivores. Those are animals that eat both plants and meat. They can eat really a little bit of both. So I think that looks like a polar bear there, a monkey, a rooster or a chicken, and then look, there we are with our turkey sandwich and our banana. We're having some plants and some meat at the same time. So these are some words to think about, producers and consumers, okay? And then to go a little bit further, three different types of consumers, the herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. So I'm going to switch it now to our story. And the story I have for you today is called Hey Diddle Diddle, a food chain tale. So we're going to get to see some other examples of food chains through this story, some producers and some consumers. Let's look for them. Here we go. A shiny green beetle was a strolling along, tapping his feet and singing a song. He said, Hey Diddle Diddle, what do you know? I've got 6 legs to help me go. A slithering snake came slinking past. When he spotted that bug, a snack at last. He swallowed it whole and shimmied along. a hissin' and a grinnin' and a singin' a song. So the snake is moving along that energy of the grasshopper. He sang, "Hey, diddle diddle, I'm feeling fine. Call me cold blooded, but I've got a spine." A hawk looked down, a tweet and a tune, and said, "I'd like some breakfast soon." So I think if we were making a prediction, we might see the next chain in the food chain. He snatched that snake right off the ground, gobbled him up without a sound, and said, "Hey, diddle diddle, I didn't ask why. I've got feathers to help me fly." He flapped his wings and he was gone when a frog kerplunked into the pond. He sang, "Hey, diddle diddle, it's certainly true. The water is nice and the land is too." A passing bass just shook his head. "I disagree with you," he said. "I just like water on my scales. It fills my gills and wets my tail." He swallowed that frog. It didn't take long. Then he slipped away just a singing this song. He sang, "Hey, diddle diddle, it can't be wrong. I love to swim all day long." So here we saw the fish eat the frog, and he used him for some energy. A lizard said, "That sounds like fun, but my dry scales prefer the sun. 'Cause when I'm cold, I'm stiff and slow, but warm me up and watch me go." He sang, "Hey, diddle diddle, life is grand, baskin' and relaxin' in the toasty sand." A plump caterpillar on a leaf above was wigglin' along, doing what she loved. She sang, "Hey, diddle diddle, it can't be beat, munchin' and a crunchin' on a leafy treat." But she nibbled so much, the leaf gave way. The lizard grinned, "My lucky day." So there we see him consuming the caterpillar for some energy. He gulped that snack, a sweet surprise, said, "Now I'm feeling energized." But a sneaky bobcat, smooth and sly, was crouching in the brush nearby. And when that lizard dashed away, the bobcat pounced upon her prey. She wolfed it down and licked her fur, said, "I love fast food," and started to purr. She sang, "Hey, diddle diddle, now fancy that. A nap sounds good to this old cat. The lion's king, or so they say. I guess that makes me queen today." And that's the end of our story. I do want to point this book out to you. You can go back and access it on Epic Books for Kids. And if you look up Hey Diddle Diddle, a food chain story, I want to show you all of these great activities at the back of the story. You can talk about and sort animals, whether they are herbivores or carnivores, and look at the relationships between two different animals and who is the predator and who is the prey, and some different statements about food chains, and you can figure out if they are true or false. So these are some fun extra activities, some animal classifications and animal adaptations. This was just super fun. I was pretty excited about that. So that is our story. We saw some different examples of food chain relationships there. So now let's pop back over to our slides. So we talked about the food chains and we saw some different relationships. Now I want you to take a look at the two different sets of pictures. So we have one on the left-hand side here. We have four pictures here. And we have five over here on this side. So let's look at this one together. We've got a rabbit, we've got the sun, and a snake, and grass. So if I were putting these in order, and we can just talk about them together, I would say first the sun helps the grass grow. So I would put the sun first, and then I would put the grass next. And then I look at what's left, and I recognize that the rabbit comes next because the rabbit gets his energy from that grass, right? So that's third in line. And then I recognize that the snake can come along and eat the rabbit and get his energy from that. So that is the order I would put those. I would put the sun and then the grass and then the rabbit and then the snake. Okay, so that's what I would suggest. So then I want you to look over here on the right hand side and talk out loud to yourself. Answer these to yourself if you need to, or talk to your grown up about it. Maybe show them these pictures and see if they can put them in the correct order from beginning all the way to the highest point on that particular food chain. Okay, and that's just something fun for you to do. And I will show you this as well. This is just something if you're out and about walking around, some items you can be looking for on a scavenger hunt. Of course, you don't have to do this at all. This is just something fun if you'd like. You can look and see if you find one predator and what does it eat. Find on the ground, perhaps look for one animal home and examine the soil. So, this is just getting you looking at some different things in the world around you when you're outside for a walk. That's just some extra fun that I thought I would put in there for you today. So, second grade friends, I hope you have a wonderful week and I will look forward to seeing you again. This is Mrs. B signing off.